Well, hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, and I want to welcome you again to our Unity Fellowship Church midweek service. Thank you for stopping by and being a part of the family of God and what we have. I do want to remind you for our service times on Sunday morning, we are in the sanctuary now at 10 a.m. So if you want to come and be a part of those services, you are more than welcome to come. We invite you to be a part of those services. If you're still not feeling that you can be there, if you're not feeling well, then we encourage you to continue to join us on Facebook Live on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. and be a part of it that way. We are also going to continue with our midweek services, our Wednesday night services, and have these posted on YouTube and on Facebook. Those should be posted by 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening, so we invite you to be a part of that as well. And we want to thank you for what you've done with us and being a part of our services. We also want to remind you this Sunday that you will want to set your clocks forward an hour, otherwise you're going to be late for service. All right, and so don't forget that Saturday night before you go to bed, go ahead and set your clocks. That way you'll be ready to go. Now, we've been teaching and we've been talking these past few weeks on the 7 last words of Jesus from the cross of Calvary. And during this time, right now we are up to the third of number 7. And again, I did want to remind you that we will be doing number 7 in person at the sanctuary at Unity Fellowship Church at 6 p.m. on Good Friday. So again, we invite you to be a part of that. We're going to have some special singing. We're going to do the final words from Jesus on the cross, and we're going to take communion together. So we invite you to be a part of that service. So come on out on Good Friday. Now today's words are coming to us from the book of John, chapter 19, verses 26 and 27. So we'll give you a minute to get there, and hopefully you've enjoyed these of the last words, and you're following along and being a part of this, and we just want to thank you for that. Now, if you're in John and you're in chapter 19, we're in verses 26 and 27, where it says, "When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, 'Woman, behold your son.' Then he said to the disciple, 'Behold your mother.' And from that hour the disciple took her into his own home." Now, there are a couple things that stood out to me when going back over these words and preparing for this message. And the first is, again, that Jesus, just like the past few weeks, we have seen that Jesus, even though he's suffering on the cross, yet he's continuing to live as an example. He's continuing to be an example of the things that he has done and talked about throughout his life. He is practicing what he preached. And this is no different this time. And when he's talking to his mother and when he's talking to the disciple, which most would relate that disciple as being John. Now, the book of Matthew also told of an event when Jesus was speaking that his mother and brothers wanted to speak to him, right? And so if you remember Matthew chapter 12, verses 48 through 50, when Jesus is speaking to the crowd, his mother and brothers are coming in, and he replied to the man who told him, "Who is my mother, and who are my brothers?" And stretching out his hand towards the disciples, he said, "Here are my mother, here are my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother." Now, that earlier interaction, Jesus was showing the people that being a disciple and following him adds them to his family. Despite your physical relationships, you're physically connected to him somehow. Those were the physical connections, but spiritually connected were the others, which he was calling his mother, his brothers. It wasn't the fact that he was trying to dismiss those physical relationships, but he was letting people know that it's those spiritual ties. This is my family. This is the family of God. Those that are doing the will of the Father, those that are following me and listening to my words, those are the ones that I consider my family, because those are going to be the ones that are going to be my eternal family. And so, it wasn't a physical thing, but it was a spiritual connection through Christ. And his message from the cross was a reminder of that relationship, that not only with him, but with each other. That people accept him, the people that follow God's will, they're all a part of the family of Christ. All right? And as a part of that family, we're expected to look out for each other and care for one another. You can't read any part of the Bible and not see that we're there to be there for each other. The Bible is littered with family references, and for good reason. God is the good Father. He is always watching over us. He is always with us. And we also need to be there for each other and treat each other the way that we want to be treated. Amen? Romans 11, as Paul is writing to the Romans, he reminds us that we are grafted into the vine, meaning we're now a part of that family. And if you go through and read that story, being grafted in shows that we're not only tightly integrated into the family, not just loosely hanging out there somewhere. And it talks about, the vines that are pruned, the vines that are taken off, the ones that aren't doing any good, right? Those are taken off, but then others can be grafted in, right? Those that are a part of the family and those that have something to produce and to show fruit, those are the ones that are grafted in. And then being treated and cared for as a part of the whole, right? Paul also goes on to tell us in Ephesians that we are adopted sons through Christ. And I'm sure that we can find tons more references, but these are the couple that I wanted to point out to you, that we are to operate as one family, and that is the family of Christ. And that's what Jesus was reiterating while he was on the cross. But that also brings me to my second observation of Jesus' words, that Jesus wanted to let his family know that they would always be cared for. And again, we're talking about a spiritual family, but we're also, at this time, he is using his physical family, because we know through the stories that Jesus had told, through the parables, through the things that he had done, he had always used something physical to show how it related in the spiritual, right? So he's telling his mother that she would always be cared for, but he's also relaying that to us as a future that is being part of the family, that we would always be cared for. Now, it's not easy to continue doing things that you're responsible for, or to think of others when you're going through things yourself, right? Sometimes it's easy just for us to self-concentrate or to draw inwardly, because we're going through things and the things that have gone on in our lives. And it's not always easy to think about the things that we have to be responsible for, the things that we need to take care of, and the things that we need to do. But that is exactly what Jesus was doing when he was on the cross. He saw his mother and the disciples standing there. He knew the loss that they were feeling. Think about that for a second. What he was going through, and the pain and the anguish, and then taking on our sin, nonetheless, at that time. But yet he was thinking of his mother, and he was thinking of the disciples, and what that loss would mean to them, and the feeling and the things that they were going to be going through in the future. That's what he was thinking about at the time, and that's why he needed to give them that reassurance by telling Mary, "Behold your son," and telling the disciple, "Behold your mother." Jesus was telling them that they were to care for each other. John was to treat Mary like his own mother, and Mary was to treat John as one of her sons. The interesting part is that Mary had other sons. They should have stepped up and taken the role that the eldest had taken, which was Jesus, and cared for their mother. But as tradition has it, they were not yet believers. So Jesus was then pointing out to John, as a believer And as a spiritual believer, as a part of my spiritual family, it is your job to take care. This is your mother now, right? He didn't leave it to his brothers or anything else. They weren't believers. He wanted to make sure that she was not only physically taken care of, but spiritually taken care of. And so John was appointed the role, basically, as the eldest, and, as a family of believers. Now, that is his job to care for Mary. And again, Mary, this is her son. So they were to be with each other and to continue to support each other, not only physically, but spiritually. And that's why he appointed it that way. And so from this interaction, I also want you to get two things out of this: acknowledgement and reassurance of part of the family of Christ, that we will be taken care of and our needs are met. And as part of that family, it is our responsibility to make sure that others are taken care of physically and spiritually, right? So make sure that we get those two things. We get the acknowledgement and the reassurance that we will be taken care of, but we also need to know that as part of that family, we have a responsibility to take care of others and make sure they're taken care of. Jesus was going through this agony on the cross, and it was not enough to know that he was doing this for us, but he needed to reassure his mother. He needed to reassure the disciples and those that were listening that they would be taken care of. It's easy enough, and most of us would be concerned with our situation, but Jesus acted past the situation, again, to show his commitment to others. And through that interaction, we can be assured that part of his family, that as a part of his family, he is concerned at all times and will make sure that we are taken care of. The other part of the interaction to John and Mary gives us an example of an indirect command as believers, right? An indirect commandment. As part of that family of Christ, we are there to be there for each other. We all go through things, and we all need someone. We all know that Jesus is watching over us, and that God is going to be with us and not forsake us, but he gave us each other for a reason. He works through his people. Because of that, we're expected to be there for each other. Not just the people we get along with the best, but every single believer. We're all a part of that same family, and we're all expected to act as such, as a part of the family, with each having the same amount of importance. It was important to Jesus that he talked about it during his moment of extreme anguish and to the point of his death. So what does that tell you? That he expects us to behave, and how he cares for us, that the care was taken to treat all of us as family and to give that command when he did. Let me put it to you this way. When we're about to the point of death, what will we be thinking about? Or what or who will we be concerned with? It was important enough for Jesus to take that time in his moment of pain, in his moment of being on this earth, finally, his finality of his body, that he took the time to assure, and he took the time to command and let us know how we were to take care of things. Amen. May the Lord bless and keep you. May he shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. Again, I welcome you to join us for the 7th Word on Good Friday at Unity Fellowship Church at 6 p.m. And if you so desire, please join us on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. in the sanctuary for praise and worship and some word and just some worship of the Father. And until next time we speak, I want to wish you blessings to you and your household. Thank you.